Okay, this is going to be my first figure review for the Iron Man Legends Series War Machine figure. I'll just start off and say I really do like the way this thing looks. I've been looking for it in a couple stores around where I'm at down here in Florida. This is actually kind of a difficult guy to find. It seems like we've got our fair share of scalpers in Bradenton here, so when he comes in they go out pretty quick. It's that way with a lot of other figures, and I'll kind of get into that later in some of the other reviews, but as it stands, just talking about him directly. He is fairly articulated. I do notice he's got, and I'll get a little bit more in detail on this, but he's got some ball joints here in the legs, so you can see he actually does articulate these out, and that's a fairly decent range of motion considering he's got these big wide hips on him. So there's not a lot of room to work with there, but I mean that's almost a 90-degree angle. Well, that's a 90-degree angle, so that's pretty good. Now whether or not he could stand like that, I doubt it. Let's see. Yeah, there's no way. He's way too top heavy. Anybody who has this figure, I mean, it's probably the same way with a lot of the War Machine figures, but with the big, you know, he's got the backpack, he's got the turret up here. I mean, it's not going to be a light figure by any means. So he's got the ball joints in the legs, double articulated knees, so they do fold up pretty close. I mean, you can see that big piece right there. I imagine that's something for his jets. It's in the way, so that's about as far as you can go. That's still a pretty decent amount of motion. I mean, you're not really doing like some crazy action-oriented poses with this guy. He never really kind of was that way. And I do believe this is modeled after the movie version. I don't know if you can tell. The only thing I don't particularly like on him, and this is kind of nitpicky, but the inside here, the what I imagine is his arc reactor, just looks kind of crappy. It's really difficult. Let's see if you guys can see in that, but it's just a white painted circle with a red outline in there. That's it. I think they do some nice clear plastic or something, but there's not a single instance of that on here. Same thing with the eyes, just the white with the red around, which looks good there, at least in my opinion, but on here not so much. So yeah, knees articulation is good. Feet are very limited. I don't know if it's just, if mine's tight, but it feels like I can't move his feet all that much. I'm hesitant to break it, but only thing I can see in there is that there's some small ball joint, but you're really limited side to side. You're not getting any rocking motion here because you've got these big like ankle guards on the side of this armor, which is alright. I mean, again, a nitpicky thing. So posability is okay in the legs. It's not great, but it could be worse, I guess. We'll see. I'm going to play around a little bit more. I don't want to break him on camera, but we'll see what happens. I'll play around with it a bit there. So of course there's no hip rotation, but he does have, in the chest area, this is 2 segmented areas, so you get a little bit of motion backwards. Not as much forwards. That's as far as he goes. And then you do get rotation. Rotation's pretty good. I mean, you can really get him back there. I mean, he's almost, yeah. He's facing completely sideways there with the head turned a bit. So you get that range of motion, that's pretty good. I haven't noticed any sort of paint transfer or anything like that. I've been keeping an eye out for it. He does have a couple paint issues on the back here. You can see in the silver paint. I don't believe that's a transfer, it just looks like a bad spot on him. Other than that, it's pretty good. I did look through a couple, and you got a little bit of silver there too. I did look through a couple figures when I picked him up, because I got crazy lucky when I visited Tampa and found quite a few of these guys on the shelf. So back to articulation again. The arms, ball joint here, and it looks double jointed in the arm. I mean, it is, but he doesn't get much arm rotation or arm movement. I mean, that's it. And again, I don't know if I don't think it's necessarily the joint. I mean, you can see that it moves there, and you can see that it moves here, but that armor piece again just gets kind of in the way. I mean, it locks it up, and that's still pretty good. I mean, he can form a pose, he can look like he's punching, that's about it. You can bring the arm back, but it doesn't really do much. It does have the rotation here on that ball joint, and then it does have the ball joint where you can bring it up like this. And the only problem I've noticed, and again, this is a piece of armor, which go figure on War Machine, the shoulder piece. So it's kind of nice. It does flip up, so it can get out of the way, which is good. I am happy they did that, because otherwise you'd have no rotation in this whatsoever. but you can flip this up. You can kind of pose them as you want, and most times you can kind of put it back in place. That's, I mean, I'm guessing that's fairly screen accurate. I'm not sure. If I remember correctly, I thought that the pauldrons were more of a part of the shoulder armor than they were the actual body armor, but I'll have to go back and check. So arms are pretty good. It's the same case on both arms, of course. He does have this big, he has these bulky guns on both sides, which do look pretty nice. They don't come off, they're not removable, there's no swappable arm piece there, so you're kind of limited. I mean, he's going to look like that, but I think that's just a standard piece of his armor, so that's really not going to change much. On top of that, so let's see, head articulation is alright. You get a little bit of up, you can get some down, that's about as far down as he goes. I don't know how or why you'd pose him like that, but far be it from me. No flip up faceplate or anything like that. I know some of like the Hot Toys figures, which I'm looking to get one of those down the line. They do have the you know, the swappable heads with the faceplates that are articulated up here and you can flip up, but not this one. This is just a regular old Hasbro. So now this piece here, as far as the cannon goes, he's got this on his back. It is articulated. I mean, it's pretty alright. You can bring it all the way back, you can bring it up. This does pop out all the time. Came separate in the box, of course. I'm just going to take it off for the time being. But okay, so you got this. It is articulated. Now what's nice about this, see if we can see, on the back there he's got that little bar that goes across right here, and you can slide this to either side. So if you want it on his right shoulder, which if I remember right, he usually wore it on his right shoulder, at least when he was using it. So you can do that. You can bring it up. Of course, that piece that I removed here, it's rubbery, just rubberized plastic. So you can stick it in the little port right here on his back, and then you bring it up and you can, like I said, it pops out all the time. So probably not something you want to move around a lot if you're going to keep him that way. I mean, I just leave him posed on the shelf, so doesn't really pose a problem, but that kind of, see, when I let go, that rubber pulls him back. I'm sure you could probably put it in some boiling water for a little bit, soften it up, and kind of pose it exactly where you wanted it to, but it doesn't look all that bad. I mean, he's a pretty good looking figure all around, so I don't really have all that much to complain about. Now what's kind of neat about this guy, let me get him out of this frame for a sec. Now the packaging he came in, standard fare, just your regular old Iron Man packaging, War Machine Legend series, snap-on weapons, right? So what's really cool about this guy, and I wasn't expecting this, and this is kind of similar to a lot of the Rebel Tech figures I have and the Figma series, he has removable hands, and these are actually on, they have their own joint in the wrist, which I'm extremely happy about. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a lot of different wrists. He's got at least 6 pairs that you can change it to. So you've got like a little balled up fist, and then the hands I have on him now, so you've got like the open, the palm spread type of look here, which I do like on him. I usually pose him out there, sort of the Iron Man look. I realize he's not Iron Man, but it just looks cool. The let's see, we got the closed fist. You've also got kind of like a half open fist kind of look. I don't know what this is supposed to look like or be for. I mean, maybe it's just resting his hand while he stands, like this sort of pose. But I haven't really had much of a use for it. It looks okay. I just figure it's kind of like right there in the middle. It doesn't really serve much of a use for me. So, I mean, that's pretty good. Now, what's cool about it, they did include this little... Sorry, I gotta pop it back out of the blister case here. Okay. So you got this little deal, right? Which is like his little rocket blaster that goes on his shoulder. We're gonna move this out of the way for a second so I can show you. Obviously it's not gonna fit on that same shoulder as this, but what you can do, and this came as a separate piece too, this little shoulder right here, you can pop that right off. And you see now you've got a little hole now, so you can port this bad boy in there. And there you go. Of course, you can have both these on at the same time. Like I said, I mean, you could probably have it over that, but that looks stupid, in my opinion. I don't know why you'd want to have them on both sides, because it evens them out if you've got, you know, the cannon on one side and the rockets on the other. So, all in all, he's pretty sick looking. I mean, I got him for about $10, I think. No, my mistake. $14.99 at Toys R Us. Of course, you pay Toys R Us tax, which is standard. But I mean, I'm satisfied. The only disappointing thing on this guy, and it's the range of motion. I think I might be expecting too much from an Iron Man series character, but probably like anybody else that gets their first Iron Man series character, I really wanted to do like the Iron Man pose where he's got his fist down on the ground, you know, and he's kind of, I believe it was in the second Iron Man film, and Tony Stark kind of lands at the convention. So I really wanted to do that with him, but he just can't do it. He doesn't have enough range of motion in the hips to support that. I mean, you can bring these down, but you can't really take a knee with this guy. So you can get like that, but you can't, his fist can't touch the ground. So he's on his knee. I mean, this is sort of the pose. It'd be a lot like this. There is no conceivable way that I can think of that you could get him down there. And that's about probably as close as you could get to it. So you could have his arms back, and even here too, that might be an issue, but he should be able to come down. They just can't do it. Anyways, I digress. It's a pointless complaint, probably just one of my own, but really wanted to do that. Like I said, I'm planning on getting one of the Hot Toys Iron Mans, and I'll do it with that, and I'll be happy, and that'll satisfy me. Other than that, I mean, like I said, if you're a fan of War Machine, it's a really good figure to get. Well, he's a little loose in the knees sometimes, but you can balance him up pretty good. If you're a fan of War Machine, I'd say definitely pick him up, especially if you can get him for around 15 bucks. I mean, I wouldn't pay any more than that. I don't think anybody is going to have it more expensive than Toys R Us does. But I'd say pick him up. Give him a shot. I mean, he's a good shelf piece, even if you don't play with it. But you can put him up there, pose him up. I mean, you've got all the different hands, like I said. So if you're a big fan of Rebel Tech or Figma series characters, it fits in quite nicely with them. So I give him a thumbs up. I'd say if anything, just pick him up, give him a shot. Otherwise, I have picked up a couple other figures in the last couple days. I picked up this Marvel Universe Psylocke, so I'm going to be doing a review of her probably next. And I've also got Masterpiece Skywarp and Masterpiece Grimlock I'm going to be doing in the next few days here. They're really kind of what spurred me to do this. I've wanted a Masterpiece Grimlock forever. I've got the old G2 blue Grimlock on my shelf I've had since I was a kid, so big moment for me. But as soon as I get all that stuff settled and get a few moments off work, I'll get those reviews up and tell you guys what I think. Alright, peace.